here, and today I'm taking over the CRM Audio podcast. I have two of my good friends from when we used to work together. So their names are Luke Hopton and Matt Ngan. In this episode, we'll talk about why Luke and Matt moved away in being a dynamic CRM developer. I'm going to refer to Dynamics 365 to what it was formerly known as in this episode, which is Dynamics CRM, so that I don't confuse Luke and Matt, as this is what it was called when they were developers. So a bit of background, Luke, Matt, and we all worked for the same Microsoft partner in Wellington, New Zealand. I moved to Melbourne, Australia in 2013. Matt eventually moved to London in the United Kingdom, but he's now based out in Toronto over in Canada. And Luke, being English, well, he left Wellington as well and moved to London, but he's now based in Jersey. So what I'm going to do first is hand it over to Matt to introduce himself and what he's up to now, and then we'll hand it over to Luke. All right, Matt, take it away.
Hey, Elaiza. Hey, I'm Matt. I'm currently based out in Toronto. I've had quite a journey. Doing Microsoft Dynamics CRM consultancy, both based in Wellington as well as in London. And then I went to a product company which was using CRM, which I found really, really interesting, which got me dabbled into product development, like an actual product. And then when I moved over to Toronto, that's when I kind of decided, I want to go to something which is product-based, using software engineering kind of skills without the CRM side. And I'm over here working for an HR software company, and that's been really, really cool.
Nice. So what was the product that you were working on in the UK?
In the UK, it was a wealth management kind of system. So it was really cool because it was CRM, so we needed to do all the different deployments and things like that, but it also had custom .NET and Angular kind of stuff as well. So it got me dabbled into having the flexibility of using not as, what would you call it, locked in to CRM. But we still had the CRM product, which helped for deploying solutions, etc. So that definitely helped. The finance side of it is very interesting. There's a lot more to it than what most people know, which is quite cool.
Yeah, was that interesting, picking up learning the finance side of things as someone who, well, actually you did study finance back in university, didn't you? I remember that.
Yeah, well, I did accounting degree, so that definitely helped. So I knew a bit of things from the finance kind of side. I think the consultancy side is really, really cool. You get to touch base on different companies, and then moving to one specific side, so i.e. wealth management, you dabble into one kind of sector, and you can focus on that, and you can reuse a lot of stuff, and you don't need to keep swapping, which is nice. It's you're more focused. You don't need to keep starting from fresh. And then again, I changed from finance to HR recruitment, applicant tracking systems. So it wasn't on the money side. It was more helping people or companies find candidates and people to hire, which is another avenue, which is cool.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Luke, I'm going to hand it over to you so that you can introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to now.
Hey, Elaiza, thanks. So I'm Luke Hopton. Like Matt, I was a CRM developer back in the day. Since working at that Microsoft partner in New Zealand with both of you guys, I actually moved out of CRM while I was still there. So there was a job role came up in the .NET application support team at a senior level, and I was a mid-level CRM developer at the time. So I kind of stepped up and sideways out of CRM development into just anything .NET. And since then, in 2015, I left New Zealand, moved to London, and joined a couple of different product companies there. So not dissimilar to Matt's journey of kind of going from that consultancy world to working at a product company where you've just got one product to focus on, which is a really kind of different experience as a developer. And that was very cool. And after a few years in London, decided to move back to Jersey in the Channel Islands, which is where I'm from originally, which is an amazing place, but kind of totally different to London or anywhere. So it's been really nice, sort of 3-ish years ago now, to move back home and kind of caught up with all the places where I grew up. And right now I'm a solutions architect for a technology company over here who we specialize in RegTech solutions. So a lot of things around sort of due diligence and KYC for kind of wealth management type companies, of which there's quite a lot based in Jersey over here. So it's a kind of good industry to be in, and it's something that's quite new to our company. So we're kind of exploring that market. And, you know, using my kind of product background, I'm then able to help kind of grow that kind of new product suite into that market.
Yeah, because it's quite funny, Matt, because Luke reached out to me saying, hey, can I have a call with you at some point to talk about Parrots Portals? And I was like, oh, this is cool because I haven't heard from Luke, and I knew that Luke had moved on from the Microsoft Dynamics CRM side of things. So it was really cool to reconnect, and I'm glad we did. And now we're doing this episode. So, hey. So I'm interested to understand why both of you felt that you need to move away from being a dynamic CRM developer. So with you, Luke, you mentioned that there was a role that came up in the .NET team, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder if that role didn't come up, would you have applied for a different type of role outside of dynamic CRM? And then the same with you, Matt. So with you, Matt, when you went to the UK, you joined a company that was specialized in wealth management and was using Dynamics CRM as the back end. So I'm just curious to understand what were the thoughts going inside of your head when you wanted to progress from being a Dynamics CRM developer?
Should I go first, Matt?
Yeah, you can go first. Yeah, it's fine.
I think, yeah, for me, if that role hadn't come up, I probably would have still moved to a more general .NET development role in the sort of near kind of future anyway. At that point, I'd spent about 5 years as a CRM developer, which was a good amount of experience. And I think it's sort of, there's kind of limitations, I guess, as a developer in terms of what you can do within CRM. Obviously, you can kind of make CRM do anything, but the kind of, there's certain ways of writing the plugins or writing the JavaScript to fit with CRM's model for extensibility. So you can't just kind of freeform code from a blank sheet of paper, as it were. So yeah, having done that for 5 years, it was kind of looking for a bit more variety and a bit more experience in other kinds of development.
So if you left around 2015, does that mean the last version of Dynamics CRM was Dynamics CRM 2013 or the 2015 when it was upgraded?
Yeah, it was 2013 at that time, because then I moved to the .NET team and stopped working with just CRM while I was still out in New Zealand. So yeah, that would have been about 2013, 2014. I think I would have stepped away from CRM.
Yeah. And what was the first version of Dynamics CRM did you work with? Was that CRM 4 or CRM 3?
The first version I worked was with CRM 4, but then I was working at a Microsoft partner here in Jersey at the time, and they did have some clients on CRM 3. So after having CRM 4 experience for a while, they made me kind of go back to look at some of the clients on the older system.
Oh, gotta love backwards compatibility. Yeah, what about you, Matt?
In terms of like my first version of CRM, I think it was CRM 3, because it had like, what is it, the call outs and things like that.
Yes, the call outs,
Yeah, and being in the consultancy, you get to go up and up, and I think the last version was probably 2013, maybe 2015, because I actually was in a consultancy in London, but then I had the opportunity to go to a product company which used CRM, the wealth management firm, which I thought was an interesting take because it is specialized, but still use the CRM kind of side. So it felt more comfortable doing that transition. And having roughly, 3-4 years of experience at that company. And at that company, they were using, more .NET as well as some other frameworks. So I got to dabble in different things other than CRM. And I think that's kind of what pushed me to going into a company which didn't have CRM at all. So over in Toronto, it's all JavaScript actually. It's Node.js and everything from the front end to the back end. So that was really, really cool. I was a little bit nervous, of course, like as you're going for a new job and like whether the transition from going from like a place which had CRM to one which had like nothing at all. But I think when you're like, once you've like learned about like a framework or like use a product like CRM, if you'll gain principles and things like that which can help you to like change, which I think's quite good. And being Microsoft as well, like you can use .NET and JavaScript and stuff like that. So as an software engineer or a developer, you really do want to like kind of dabble in different things, and you pick up that skill coming from either end, whether you're in a consultancy / a product-based kind of firm, which is awesome.
Yeah, because I was going to ask for both of you, has what you learned in terms of C# for the server-side development and JavaScript for the front end been of any value to what you do now? And it sounds like it has been.
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm full JavaScript kind of like workflow. We use Visual Studio Code. So but code is like so flexible, like you can use anything on that. It's just a great IDE. I don't do anything with .NET or like C# or anything, but it's easy enough to pick up. Like we use TypeScript, so having typing is great. So yeah, it's cool, like kind of like reminiscing about the journey and like the benefits of coming from a consultancy background and working in a product which is CRM, and like you are limited, but like that can actually help as well in trying to figure out solutions for problems that you have, because I don't know, it gets you to think in a different way rather than say if you're just like using, I don't know, JavaScript. You are a lot more flexible, but sometimes you want to be constrained in a way to like kind of like get you thinking.
Yeah,
what about you, Luke?
For me, like CRM was kind of my route into the whole .NET development world. So my first job was a internship with a Microsoft partner over here in Jersey, and I had no experience with C#. I was doing my degree in computer science at the time, and I'd done programming in a bunch of languages, but none of them were C#. But luckily, they kind of took a chance on me as an intern and sort of didn't expect that experience. And so I started learning C# to write CRM plugins and things, and beefing up my JavaScript skills to do the kind of scripting for CRM as well. And then from that, once I stepped away from working with CRM, there was a full stack .NET developer for 3 or 4 roles after that. So, all of my kind of learning of that Microsoft stack started with CRM. And I've stuck with a lot of Microsoft things like Azure, especially out of that kind of CRM intro. So my whole career path has really been kind of geared around Microsoft technologies, probably because I just started with CRM and I've always kind of jumped from one Microsoft technology to another one.
Yeah. And with both of your roles now, when we were working together back then, we become accustomed to the whole application lifecycle management. So where we build in a dev environment and then to UAT, and then do a release into a live working production environment. And with you, Matt, is that still the case because you're working on the product development side now?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have different staging environments, and it allows us to essentially just test things out, make sure that we're not releasing any bugs to our customers. One thing which I think is different to our consultancy kind of life is these our projects which we're working on, we can just send out to our customers straight away, but they're just hidden between feature flags.
Yeah.
Normally for our consultancy projects, we go to UAT and then go to production, but they're kind of they're scheduled what date. Well, for us, we are constantly shipping out code into production once it's been tested, but the users won't get to see those features till we're happy with it. So that's kind of nice because you don't have these massive as branches which you need to then merge in and then deploy out, which is cool because it's I don't know, you can not worry as much about having to get the right solution package, get all the code, and then you have a specific date to deploy everything. And but then of course there's risks because you're deploying not deploying straight to production. You are deploying to production, and your users can have an impact on it because your code is running there.
Yeah. And what's it like in terms of collecting the feedback? Because obviously, if when we're consultants and we're working on projects, we usually have UAT where there's opportunity for the customer to provide feedback, and then post go live when we deploy the solution, again they have the opportunity to provide feedback. But from product developer perspective, you ship it and you just expect them to use it. But then is there a forum or something where you can collect the feedback that they provide if something has changed, or if there's something that they don't like in terms of the HR application?
Yeah, that's a good question. Normally in terms of feedback, you can have a form, or you do release waves, so certain customers get it early and you can get early feedback from there. You would normally get feedback from prototypes and things like that from a particular feature before, just to make sure that, hey, is this the right direction which we want to head to? And of course you'll get feedback after release and might need to adjust things to go forward, or bugs, because it's always difficult. You're not going to be able to, it's very hard to catch every single bug, especially once it's released to every single customer. But it's quite cool because these are, you're releasing to different customers rather than just one customer, which is kind of the approach which you do for consultancy. So that's quite cool.
And I'm curious to know for both of you, so we'll start with Luke. Do you guys, what do you use for source control now? Because back in the day, we used to use Team Foundation Server, which has since been renamed to Azure DevOps Server. And then there's Azure DevOps, which is the cloud version. So I'm just wondering, what do you guys use for source control these days?
So at the moment, we use Git and Bitbucket to host it. But I've used a bunch of things like GitHub Enterprise or Azure DevOps. But it's always been Git repositories. So I think since probably leaving that partner we were all at together, I've not used anything outside of Git for source control.
Wow. And Matt?
Yeah, for me, the consultancy was TFS. And even my company after that, the wealth management company, I think we were using TFS and a bit of Git. But my current firm's all GitHub, which is fine. It's just another way to store code. So you just have a few things to learn. But yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. So I'm going to now turn your attention back to Dynamics CRM because I'd like to know who were the bloggers back then that you followed, or if you Googled an issue, who do you remember would pop up for you in your results?
I think one of my funniest was I was googling something when we were all working together, and the kind of best answer online, although it didn't quite answer the question, came up as something by Rex Vessels, who also worked with us at the time. So then I think I walked across the office to Rex's desk and I was like, "Hey Rex, help me out. Apparently you're the authority here."
That's awesome. And Matt?
Oh man, I can't really remember. What is it? I just remember like there was like the XRM toolbox, which is pretty cool. There were like some blogs around there. I can't remember the name of the person who developed that, but I think they had a blog.
Definitely the official like Microsoft CRM team blog, I think, was quite good on new updates and stuff. There was a blog, and maybe Elaiza, you'll remember this. Someone had their blog styled to look like CRM4. And that was a blog that obviously they were deep into CRM, and so they'd gone for CRM4 look and feel on their blog posts and everything with the blue and the gradients.
I'm trying to remember who that was. Because for me back then, whenever I search for issues, it was Adam. So Adam, is his name Adam Verrett? So he's based in the UK, and then there was Scott Duro, and then Yuka, who's based in Finland, Yuka Niranen. Hopefully I didn't butcher his surname, because Yuka always had good posts. And then there was Gareth Tucker. I don't know if you. Actually, that might be the guy. Well, he didn't start as CRM4. I know that he started as CRM 2013, and then the other guy for me was Gonzalo Ruiz, and then probably around 2014 is when Eileen Guzney popped up. So she was a Microsoft MVP, and she was based in, I believe, Indonesia at the time, and then she had moved over to Singapore. But yeah, she was really cool. So
loads of those names I remember now that you mentioned them. Yeah, after like 7 years, it's dredged back up some memories. Yeah.
And the other famous person who was pretty good in the developer space for CM developers, I mean, not functionals, was Jason Latimer as well. So he had the CRM REST builder. Yeah.
And those names sound familiar.
And Scott Duro was a Ribbon Workbench guy.
Oh yeah, it's amazing the tools that people create in the community.
Yeah, I know. And the cool thing is that they're all still going strong. Well, most of them are. A few of them have dropped out of the scene, but it's all good. Yeah. So Matt, at the time when we were together, because you joined, was it 2010? You joined after the year Carl Dallin had joined, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Who in the team showed you the ropes in being a CRM developer? Because if I recall correctly, as I mentioned, Carl started the year before you joined, and then there was DB, David Brown.
Yep, definitely.
Rex Vessels and Adam Lancashire. Adam?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a combination of all those. I think Rex definitely helped out a lot beginning. Man, that was ages ago. Yeah, I think it was Rex. Rex definitely helped at the beginning. Sophie helped. Maurice.
Yes.
From the functional kind of side, but she did a lot of development, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And David, of course. David was definitely a go-to person to ask for help when I was a newbie.
Yeah. Do both of you remember Rex's joke or opening line whenever he met someone new?
No, but I can imagine what kind of style it was.
He would ask, "Smells like up dog in here," and so he would wait for someone to say, "What's up, dog?" And then he'd be like, "What's up, dog?" It's so Rex. No. Yeah. Anyway,
I miss Rex.
I know, me too. So Rex and I, we worked together for a few months in the same Microsoft partner, and then he moved on to another Microsoft partner. But instead of being a developer or a solution architect that he used to be, now he's in the product development side of things. So he's building some products with Dynamics 365 and Umbraco, which is sort of like another CMS platform. Yeah, so before we wrap up, we're going to quiz. We're going to take part in a quiz. So I'm going to quiz both of you to see how much you remember in terms of being a CRM developer. Are you guys ready?
Sure.
No, definitely not ready. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start. Question number 1. In CRM4, what was the name of the tool that you need to use to develop CRM4 plugins? Do you remember the name of the tool?
Not the plugin registration tool?
Yes, that's it. All right.
Oh, okay. One Matt.
1 point to Matt. Okay, question number 2. When registering a plugin using the plugin registration tool, what are the 2 mode options?
Was it synchronous and asynchronous?
Yes.
Wow.
1 point to Luke. Okay, so both of you are even now. All right, question number 3. When registering a plugin, there is a stage property which defines whether the plugin runs before or after the core operation takes place. What is the correct term used when a plugin executes before the core operation?
A pre-operation?
Yes. Okay. 1.2 that. So this is useful. So just for our listeners, a pre-op or a pre-event plugin, this is useful when you want to validate or alter data prior to submission. Okay, so question number 4. Do you remember what a post-op is? So a post-event plugin.
So it was after the core save of the main data had happened, whatever was triggering the plugin. So it would tend to be for creating additional data that was related or something like that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. So both of you are even. So it executes additional logic or integration after the data has been stored in the database. All right. Question number 5. When registering a plugin, what is the assembly location property?
Oh, that was where your custom code lives. So it could be in the GAC, or I think you could upload it to the solution.
Yes, that's correct.
Maybe on the test. Yeah.
Correct. So, so that option tells Microsoft Dynamics CRM whether the assemblies are stored in the database or in the web server's file system or the GAC, as Luke mentioned. Okay, so question number 6. What was the purpose of the deployment manager tool?
Was that one for moving customizations between environments?
Yeah. Yes.
Or is that the separate one which you can choose change the flags and things, or
So it was a tool that was automatically installed during the installation of the Dynamics CRM server, and back then administrators used the deployment manager to manage the organizations, the licenses, the servers, and authentication methods. But it was essentially the front-end interface for the lovely MSCRM_config database that was created during the installation. So you could do configuration of the Dynamics CRM server. Yeah. Okay. So the last 2, I don't think they're that hard, but let's see. All right. So the next question. What was the name of the intermediary application that provided server-to-server synchronization between Microsoft Dynamics CRM and Exchange or POP3/SMTP-based email servers? Do you remember what it was called? Now, this was a pain to troubleshoot and support.
No, that's all I remember about it. Is it was a lot of problems.
Every single time. It's the Microsoft Dynamics CRM email router.
Oh, yeah.
I just remember, like, have you tried restarting it? Oh, let's restart the service and see what happens. Okay, so then the last question is related to the previous question. So the Microsoft Dynamics CRM email router supports synchronization of appointments, contacts, or tasks. True or false?
False.
Yes, correct. So the email router only synchronizes email messages. It doesn't synchronize appointments, contacts, or tasks. So that's when server-side sync came about later on, which handled all of it. So yeah, that's the end of the quiz. I think you guys did pretty well, considering that you guys have been away from the CRM developer game for a few years. So round of applause to both of you.
It's in our brains. We can never get it out.
So
in some dark corner.
So as a final question, what do both of you miss about New Zealand? Because for you, Luke, it's probably going to be years until you visit, whereas Matt, it's different because your family's still here.
For me, yeah, it's probably family. It's the one thing. And be able to, like, I don't know, there's still a lot more to explore in New Zealand, even though I've lived there most of my life. So, yeah.
I think for me as a visitor, it was just the amazing, like, nature and landscapes there. I really miss, the Southern Alps and places like Tekapo and stuff. That was just so beautiful. I'd love to go back, but I've got a young son now, so it's going to be quite a while before I want to sit on a plane with him for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be hard.
Like Tekapo is so beautiful. So I'm glad that you went while you were here. Matt, have you been?
I think I may. Oh no, I don't think I have actually.
Oh,
there's so many places I need to visit, and I want to do some of the great hikes as well. Tramps. Yeah, definitely have to come back again.
Okay.
So, once it's open.
Yeah. Well, you know where I live, so.
Sure.
another brunch catch up. But yeah, likewise, Luke, when you're ready to come back to New Zealand, let me know and I'll organize a catch up with everyone, and I'll make sure Rex Vessels and David Brown come along as well.
Yeah, amazing. That would be great. I will take you up on that one day.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being guests on the CRM Audio podcast with me. I think it's really interesting and amazing to hear what you guys have been up to. And the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because we have a lot of people around the world that want to become a consultant in the Microsoft partner space or in the Microsoft space, but to hear the other perspective, where we turn it around, where I wanted to talk to people who have been a CRM developer or, working in the Microsoft space, but have since moved out from it. But it sounds like, Luke, you're kind of going to be somewhat still involved in this space. So that's good to know. But yeah, thanks so much. And for those of you who are tuning in today, stay tuned, as there'll be another CRM Audio episode where I'll be taking over and you'll get to hear who my next guest is soon.